Now, the Labour Party has written a letter to the National Audit Office asking them to launch an investigation into the delays to the Department of Health's new hospitals programme, which was announced in 2019, and promised to build, extend or refurbish 40 hospitals.
Well, we can now speak to the Shadow Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. Good morning to you. Tell us about this letter then and why you decided to write it.
Well, we already know that the promise the Prime Minister made to build 40 new hospitals has been broken because there won't be 40 new hospitals. Some of them will be refurbishments. But we're really concerned by the delay even to those refurbishments. If you take Whipps Cross Hospital, one of my local hospitals, for example, suffers severe flooding, big disruption last year, huge challenges in terms of patient care, should be at the top, or if not near the top, of that list of 40 refurbishments. Still no idea when they're going to get the investment that's been promised. The plans are ready, but the investment isn't coming through. And the challenge, I think, is twofold. One is this is costing patients dear in terms of their health care because they're being treated in dilapidated, unsuitable conditions. But secondly, it's costing us, the taxpayers, dear too, because construction costs are rising all the time. And so I'm asking the National Audit Office to look at whether or not this programme is serious, whether or not it can be delivered, and whether or not the government is wasting taxpayers' money through their dither and delay.
Is that really a good use of public money, though, when we know why the NHS is having its money directed in other directions at the moment? Because there's been a huge pandemic. We've had backlogs right across the board. The Prime Minister himself coming out today to make pledges to try and tackle those problems. It's something that's on the agenda of the sitting government. And quite frankly, those new hospitals and the extensions just have to wait a little bit longer.
Well, I'd say two things in response to that. One, this is capital investment. For buildings, not revenue spending, which is day-to-day spending for things like the NHS backlog. And the Prime Minister made the promise he should stick to his promises. The second thing I'd say is, of course, COVID has had an impact on the NHS and on NHS pressures. I wouldn't dispute that for a moment. But that doesn't explain why we went into the pandemic with NHS waiting lists already at a record 4.5 million. And in fact, on cancer waits, the standards for patients and the waits have worsened every year over the course of the last 10 years of Conservative government. So big challenges pre-pandemic. So while the Conservatives will want to say it's all about COVID, these are COVID delays, actually this is a Conservative backlog and we're all paying a very heavy price for it.
Mr Streeting, we are going to hear pledges from Boris Johnson today, a focus on the NHS. He is going to speak about tackling waiting times. Wouldn't you rather wait to hear this agenda rather than criticising him? I mean, what is this going to achieve, really, other than political point scoring?
Well, I don't think we're going to be hearing much from Boris Johnson at all today, apart from the fight for his own political survival. We're now expecting Sir Graham Brady to announce that there is a Conservative vote of no confidence, and I think it's now time for Conservative MPs and ministers to stop wrestling with their consciences and briefing newspapers, as ministers did over the weekend, that they have no confidence in Boris Johnson but lack the courage to do anything about it. I'm afraid Boris Johnson has become a big part of the problem in government because he's not focused on the job, whether that's getting the NHS backlog down, tackling the cost of living crisis which our country is facing. Boris Johnson can't be part of the solution to these problems because he is part of the problem.
Labour Party not immune to some of these discussions, though, is it? I mean, we know the questionnaires have been handed out to Sir Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner in relation to their possible law breaking during COVID regulations during that beer gate, as it's being described, and also debates about who might possibly take over if Sir Keir Starmer did resign. I was reading this morning, questions have been asked whether Sadiq Khan might be interested in the role. Discussions about who's going to be at the top of your party also going on.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that Keir Starmer will be leading Labour into the next general election. I've no reason to believe that Durham police are going to draw a different conclusion this time to when they looked at the visit to Durham last time. So I don't think that the police will reach a different conclusion. But here's the contrast, right? Keir Starmer has been absolutely clear. If he is fined by Durham police, he will resign as leader of the Labour Party. And I think it's unbelievable, really, that we've got to this point where Boris Johnson has not only broken the rules, but has been caught red-handed lying to Parliament and lying to the country. I mean, that in itself should be a resignation offence. He hasn't done the right thing. And I think now Conservative MPs need to ask themselves a very simple question. Are they really telling the voters that Boris Johnson is the best that the Conservative Party has to offer? Or are they going to give the country better leadership? You know, the country deserves better leadership. I hope it will be provided, but there's certainly better leadership will be on offer at the next general election from Labour in the form of Keir Starmer.
Well, many people do say that Sir Keir Starmer is not a very inspiring leader. Many papers actually name you as the saviour of the Labour Party, the politician that they need right now. What do you say to that? Would you like to lead the Labour Party?
Well, I wouldn't get carried away. It feels like the August silly season's arrived slightly early since the Durham police questionnaires were handed out. But as I say, I've no doubt who will be leading Labour into the next general election. It will be Keir Starmer. And let me just say to you and your viewers, as someone who works with Keir day in, day out, he is someone of decency, integrity. He's got his heart in the right place, his head in the right place, and we focused on the big challenges facing our country. How do we help people struggling with the cost of living crisis and put more money back in people's pockets? How do we make sure we tackle the big challenges in our public services? And crucially, how do we get the economy going? Because unless we get inflation under control, unless we get growth back into the economy, we're in for really hard times as a country. We know this is hurting people in our pockets, and that's why the cost of living crisis is Labour's #1 priority. And at the next election, we will set out a manifesto that addresses those concerns, with fully costed policies that people can judge us on and vote for us on. And in the meantime, we're calling for an emergency budget right now to help people with the cost of living crisis. But as I say, I doubt we'll be having any talk from the Conservatives today about the cost of living or the NHS or much else, because Boris Johnson has put himself right at the heart of the political debate. His future is now the focus of every Conservative MP, when actually it's the cost of living crisis that should be the focus. So I think it's time for Boris Johnson to do the right thing and jump before he's pushed.
Well, the Chancellor did do a big announcement on the cost of living crisis just around 10 days ago. No doubt that would be the views of the government. For now, your title, who knows what you might be in the future, but Shadow Health Secretary Wes Streeting, we appreciate you stopping by. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks very much. Take care.